just started reading into the Bible. My faith is like coming back into my life now.
Good. It's awesome.
I was never very religious, but I'm reading all these stories, and it's like Moses, right? Mm-hmm. Moses takes his people out. I mean, for thousands of years they were slaves. Takes them out of there, and then they have to like fend for themselves in the desert, and they're like, "Fuck that, dude. We want to go back."
Mm-hmm.
It's because people like to be. Some people like to just have it easy.
Normalcy bias.
They just want easy, normal. Mm-hmm. They don't want to work for themselves. They just want you to tell them what to think and what to do, and they'll just that's not a life. You're not living. Like, you're supposed to struggle. Life is supposed to be hard.
You're supposed to risk things.
Yes.
Everybody thinks they want freedom, but what they really crave is order.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, people didn't die for order. People died for freedom.
Yeah.
And people take freedom for granted, and they would rather exchange that for order, even if it means they give up the freedoms that they have. And that's one side of thought. And then there's another side of thought, like what's in this room. I don't need your order. I don't need you to run my life for me. I would rather have the personal responsibility and take accountability for myself and have more struggle and hardship than have you tell me what to do. I would rather have less things, less money, and more freedom than you telling me what I can and cannot do. That starts in the mind. It starts at a very young age. I mean, you told me where you grew up. I assume, were you raised with conservative values? I mean, were you raised?
Well, so my mom was a drug addict, an alcoholic. My stepdad was an abusive prick. Like I've been on my own since I was 14. Like that's when I emancipated myself at 15 years old. So I've been taking care of myself for a long time, and I never took anything from the government. So I just But but everybody where I lived, I saw what happened when they got on. They were generations of people with EBT cards, and people with WIC cards, and I'm like, dude, you've never, like, this person's never worked a job. How are they surviving? Like, they're just living off the government? I was like, that's bullshit. Who pays for that? Like, I started thinking about, like, who pays for that? But then it just was like, yeah, I'm just a young kid, whatever, But then as I got older and I started paying taxes, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I'm paying for all of these fucking useless work, like, they're just wasting space. They're not contributing anything. They're not even trying to do anything. They're just like, fuck it. The government will pay for my shitty little Section 8 housing. They'll give me I'll get a little $400 a month in food stamps, and I'll sell that for $200 and go buy alcohol with it. That's what my mom used to do, So they'll just sell it, sell a $400 card for $200, and now somebody gets, somebody's getting $400 worth of groceries for fucking $200. It's a deal, and they go and they spend that cash on drugs and alcohol. And then they have a fucking ton of kids, because for every kid you get a little bit of money. And it's just, I saw it happening over and over again. And I was just like,
generational poverty.
Yeah, just generational poverty. And it's like, none of these people are breaking that cycle. Like, and you see their kids do the same fucking thing. Like, they have all these aspirations, but then whenever things get tough, they just are like, oh, fuck, the government will take care of me. So what do I have to work for? Like, I'll just work some shitty job over the counter and fucking, make 15 grand a year, and then the government will give me another 20 grand a year, and I'll just live in a fucking double wide and drink fucking Busch Light on the weekends, and who gives a shit,
Yeah. No,
I never wanted that. I just didn't want that for myself.
You wanted something. You wanted something better for yourself, and I mean that is a hell of a starting line, though. 15 years old, you emancipate yourself, you get out from what I would assume was not a prosperous situation.
No, I wasn't put in I'm grateful for it though, because it forged me into the player I was. Because to play in the NFL on the defensive line, you got to be a little bit fucked up, and you got to play with rage, and you got to play with anger. And it's not just on the game day. Like, you got to do this. You got to love this shit, because it's every day. I mean, you play a game. I play 60 snaps on Sunday. Guess what? I'm back in the pads on Wednesday. And guess what? I'm back again in pads on Thursday. And then on Friday, we got helmets on. But do you think it slows down any? No. So you got 3 more days of practice, and then you get a day off, and then you play again Sunday. And then, guess what? Next week we got a Thursday night game. Oh, fuck. Cool. So we get less time to recover. So you got to love this shit. It's too hard not to love it. And I was lucky enough to have, like, I started playing when I was 6 years old, full contact. And from the second I stepped on that field, I was home. It was like, okay, this is my home. And not having like those family, like a true family at home, that those became my brothers and my coaches. That's who, I didn't care what my fucking stepdad had to say or do. All I cared about was what my coach thought. So it gave me a purpose. And that's what most of these people don't have. Most people don't have a purpose, you know, and it's, I dealt with that out of retirement. I was like, well, what the fuck's my purpose? Like, I just elk hunt now. Like, just a dad and I elk hunt.
Man,
like,
that sounds pretty good to me.
I mean, yeah, it sounds, that's why it's like, it sounds awesome, but my purpose was to fucking
Yeah.
seek and destroy quarterbacks and fucking running backs, see ball, get ball. Like, always had something to train 1% better every day, you know? Just something to like drive you every day.
And it's such a high adrenaline, high octane game and sport and occupation. And like you said, it's not, people have a misconception that it's okay, there's game day and then there's not. But that intensity carries all the time. You see it in training. You see it in the off season. They don't switch off. It's very hard. It's a lot harder for guys with the intensity that you have to turn it off than it is to turn it on.
Oh yeah, it's always on.
It's always on.
It's turning it off that's hard.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, you know, and then it's so especially because I just didn't have, like, my faith was just different then. Because I felt, and it's funny because I was forged into this, like, I was just a fucking prick. Like, I just played my ass off. I treated people right. Like, I always treated people right. Like, I never wanted somebody to meet me and be like, that guy fucking sucked. Like, I just never wanted that to happen. So even though, like, I don't feel like talking to you, I will talk to you because that's just, I think it's important because, like, who the fuck I'm just a football player, you know. I never thought I was better than anybody. I always thought I was different than everybody. I knew I was different, but I didn't think I was better, you know. And so the way I trained, I took my training fucking serious, but I also like to party. So, like, I trained hard and I played hard, and that's how I was.
As just about everyone else does. Yes.
You know, it's just, you know, I'll give you an example, right? So in 2015, the first 3 games or the first 4 games, I was playing good, but not great. And I was like, you know what? I need to just I was all wound up. I was wound up too tight. So I just went to Miami and fucking binged for 2 days on our bye week, and came back AFC Defensive Player of the Week. Fucking Sunday Night Football, Gruden grinder.
The John Jones night.
Yeah. And it was like, sometimes you just have to do that. You know what I mean? And it's just, I just needed to, like, unwind a little bit. Like, just fucking relax first. You know, just like just relax. Like, this is what you do. Like, you're fucking ready. Like, I was just playing. I wasn't like missing tackles or anything like that, but I was just like, it wasn't free flowing. And then, because I just started microdosing that year, or the year before that. So, like, I was like really getting into my grooves, and I just couldn't, like, get that. My flow state wasn't coming. You know what I mean? Because, like, in a game, you get that flow state. It's just like, the game's over, and you're like, fuck, I want to keep playing. Like, that's how I played. It was like, I wanted the game to keep going because I was like, I'd get into my flow state, and that's like where I'm comfortable now. Now I feel great. And I was just having a hard time getting there. And then I went and I just partied a little bit and had some fun. And it wasn't even alcohol. It was just like, just letting loose and, like, being away from the game for a minute and just hanging out with buddies and just chilling, you know. It was, and, you know, we went out in Miami for a night, and then the next day we just, like, chilled and hung out by the pool, came back and just, like, went fucking crazy. The rest of the season was just, we ended up winning a Super Bowl. It was,
oh wow,
just fucking went nuts. Signed a huge contract. It was fucking awesome.
Heck
I met my wife after that season.
All in the same season?
All in the same year, yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
You've mentioned microdosing and mushrooms when we were out at the float tank, too. Was that a regular part of your, like, pregame routine?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
So pregame was, you'll like this. So my pregame, I would get to the facility, to the stadium, whether it's home or away. It's the same routine. Get in there. I immediately put my football pants on. I like immediately put my pants on, and then I take out my microdose and like my little pre-workout, neuro pre-workout, 40 milligrams of Adderall. Take my microdose, chug that down, and then I'd go out to the field and put EDM music on.
That's the greatest pregame ritual I've
and
ever
just
heard.
fucking run around. I play like catch. Seriously, I go out there and just play catch. I do like my warm up and like get offs and shit, and then I just fucking play catch. Like just play catch with another guy. Like me and Von Miller used to play. We just would play catch for like an hour, and I'd be like all sweaty and lathered up and breathing hard and shit because I'm like doing fucking double taps in the back of the end zone and like playing with the fans and shit. You know, but the whole time I got my music on and it's like fucking heavy dubstep. You know, like. And then I'd come into the locker, and that like gets me loose and gets me going, and I'm like ready to party, you know. And then when we get into the locker room and I start putting my pads on, as soon as I put my shoulder pads on, straight fucking death metal, like straight like death metal. It's just like fucking, that's just fucking And now I'm ready to go. Like I'm fucking ready to go. And then we go out and do our like little team warm up. Come back in and take a little bit more of a microdose, just a little bit more, not too much.
Like how much are we talking here? Have you broken it less than a gram, more than a gram?
Like 0.45.
0.45. Okay.
It's like the max.
Before a game.
Before a game.
Yeah, so you're not quite getting visuals or anything like that.
No, because I did one time we played Dallas and I did a little too much.
Yeah. How'd that go?
Dude, I can't. First of all, when you play in Dallas, you walk through a tunnel that's like a bar. It's a fucking bar, so you got fans on both sides of you. It's like a glass tube you walk through, when you're like you feel like a caged animal. And I was like, fuck it. And when that heavy metal comes on, I'm going into berserker mode, right? So like, I'm here to kill people. Like that's what I'm thinking. I'm here to fucking destroy everything. I'm just here to fuck shit up. Like that's what I'm doing. And so you walk through and there's all these fucking fans. I'm just like, I'll fucking kill everything. Like, your mind is like, you're like, oh fuck, like you come out of the tunnel, dude, and it's just like it's an indoor, it's like there's fucking smoke everywhere, and they got like fucking pole dancers up on the thing. I'm like, what the fuck? The Jumbotron is just like
I can imagine.
I was like, oh my god. Like, you're like looking at yourself on that. It's so fucking
if you saw yourself on the Jumbotron.
Yes.
I don't even know what I'd do if I saw myself on the Jumbotron.
Well, it was like I was running out of the tunnel and looking at all this shit, and I looked at the Jumbotron and I saw myself running, and I'm like, dude, you look like you're 100 foot tall. Like it's fucking crazy looking, you know? And it's just, and it took a whole like.
How'd you play?
I played awesome. But the first quarter was like my linebacker would like tell me to play, and I'd be like, no, fuck that, we're not running that. And he'd be like, yeah, we're fucking running. Shut up, get lined up. And I'm like, all right.
Did anybody know about this pregame ritual? I mean, did your teammates know you did this?
Some guys did, like Vaughn knew. Yeah. So like, because I don't know if Vaughn was microdosing, but because I just don't want to put his business out there. But Vaughn and I had like a non-verbal communication that we could do on the field now, because we played next to each other for 8 years. So by the end of it, dude, we had 137 sacks in the regular season together.
Yeah, it's impressive.
So we
very freaking impressive, man.
In 8 years, like we fucking got after quarterbacks, but we had like a non-verbal communication where like we could just look at each other and like
you just knew.
It was just like, all right, and just line up, and we would run our games, and we would do shit to offensive linemen. Like I would run up and just like give the tackle a little tug. Just a little tug on his neck, and Vaughn would just fucking he's like a cheetah, dude. He's just fucking out of there, and he would just like pounce on the quarterback and take the ball from. It was just the shit we did was just incredible, So it was just like the game would slow down for me. Everything was around me was moving slower, but I was still moving fast. So like,
and you attribute this to the psilocybin?
Yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because the thing about psilocybin that's great is, I'm not a fucking doctor. I'm just giving you my personal experience.
Of course, yeah.
Like I'm not telling every football player to go do it, but maybe try it. Try it in training. Just go do a workout. Just take a little bit, go do a workout, see what it does for you. Because everything is slowed the fuck down for you. Everything else is slowed down around you. And the Adderall, I have terrible ADHD. So when I don't take my medicine, dude, I'm like a fucking like you like, yeah. And we're at the end of the day now, so like my Adderall is long worn off, But I did a little microdose before we came, so I can stay on subject, kinda. But now you give me my Adderall and then some psilocybin.
Laser focused.
It's like it's like a laser. Like I don't say a fucking word. It's just like see ball, get ball, destroy, kill. Okay, let's go. And it was like
in one sentence on a loop.
Well, it was there's certain plays that would happen, and I was like, I know exactly what the fuck is coming. Like I'm gonna go make it. You know, just go boom, go make the play, and then you're like, I fucking knew it was coming.
And I mean, obviously, never had the similar experience, but I've done it in the weight room, and similar. It feels like you're like, okay, you know, whatever else is going on doesn't matter. I'm in this exact set, this exact rep. I'm targeting this exact set of muscles. I can train it here. I've trained for 3-4 hours without stopping.
Yeah.
It also just, I don't know. For me, how do I say this? It makes me like not hungry in a weird way.
Not
like
tired.
And not tired. You're not hungry. You're not tired. You're not distracted. You're just
in
the moment doing what you're doing. And I think because again, this should always come with a disclaimer that everybody is different. Everybody has a different brain, but I think you and I are very similar. You and I have a similar ADHD. I mean, they wanted my mom to put me on Adderall. That's a whole nother story. But I respond the same way to mushrooms that I think you do. Where it's like everything else gets muted and I can focus in on one thing like it's no tomorrow.
That's why I didn't like weed, because weed kind of like
the opposite.
Weed does the opposite for whatever, how it like relaxes other people. It doesn't do that for me. It like gets my fucking, I'm like all over the place.
Do you get a little paranoid?
I do. I get super paranoid.
I get super paranoid.
I don't like it.
It's what made me stop. Like we used to get after it hard with marijuana long before I found mushrooms.
When I was playing, we did. That's how we like. Guys would like unwind with it. I'm like, how the fuck are you unwinding? Like, I'm fucking sitting there like, oh shit.
What did he say? Whoa! Don't do that again.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking like.
Everyone thinks that's what like psilocybin is going to do to you.
No,
but for me, it's like no, I'm good. I can sit down and talk like podcasting. Oh, dude, it's awesome.
Oh, it's
you
great.
can just sit down and talk, and I can follow every conversation in the room.
Yeah.
It's just, but again, everybody's different. I think it has to do with your brain chemistry.
Absolutely.
How you're wired.
Yeah. That's why, and there's enough people out there right now that are distributing this stuff that know what the fuck they're doing. Mm-hmm. So like if you're going to do it, I highly suggest you find somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing. Mm-hmm. Don't just like, hey, my buddy's growing his own fucking shrooms out in the yard or out in his garage, you know, we're going to fucking, he's growing them in his own oven. You know, it's like, hey dude, maybe you should be careful. You know, with that at first, you know, it's like go to somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing and and it's a true microdose.
Yeah.
Like you don't even know you did it until like, you're like, oh shit, I fucking just worked out for 2 hours straight and I'm not even tired.
Yeah.
You know, or, oh shit, we just had a long conversation. I actually retained the information. Or, oh, I just listened to a fucking audiobook and I retained literally the entire book. If I don't enjoy what I'm doing, I don't like it. Mm-hmm. It's really like, it's like fucking torturing me. Mm-hmm. Like sitting in a classroom is fucking torture. Yeah. Like it was like the most, I hated it so much because I'm like, I don't care about any of this.
Social studies,
earth science.
I would literally in high school just get up and leave and go to the gym and play dodgeball. Like I need to move. I need to be doing active shit. Like I was never built for the classroom.
No. And I think it says a lot about the way that we sort of combine everyone's education at that age. It's incorrect. It's so everybody wrong. Even at that age, man, you're dealing with undeveloped minds, yes, but they're all different. They're so different.
Well, especially like, why do you have boys and girls in the same classrooms doing the same shit? Like we're not wired in our DNA. Our DNA code is the men are coded to go out and hunt and provide. Mm-hmm. The women are coded to stay and gather and raise children. I'm not saying like, you know, that's just what their DNA code is to do. And I'm not saying that it's not deviated and we don't have to like, I'm not saying I'm a girl dad and I'm in a household full of women. All right. And I say funny shit to them all the time just to like get them fired up. I always tell them, my 17-year-old especially, I get her going because I'm like, listen, we used to be a proper country and then we let women vote. I say shit like that to her just to get her going, you know. And she's like, oh, she gets so mad.
You can only imagine.
Just to fuck with her, or I'll, you know, just like I'll say shit to my wife, like, hey, you know where your place is. You know? Just, which is like a role play thing because I know I'll just get fucking smacked if I do. Because I'm happy living in a van down by the river without her, you know. It was. But it's, you know, that it's just, we're coded to be a certain way to do certain things. Mm-hmm. We're not coded to just sit in a fucking classroom and learn algebra.
Yeah.
Oh
my gosh. Talk about a useless subject that had no merit for society.
Men or women. That's why they ever told us was that we wouldn't have a calculator.
You're going to need this. You're going to need this.
You wouldn't have a calculator in your pocket.
You're not going to have a calculator in your pocket.
Dude, look at this thing. This thing can... Oh, whoa. What did I do? This thing can do everything, include dim the lights of the podcast, but it can do math like this,
like that,
like that, man. I don't need math for anything. And it's also showing me how astonishingly bad I am at math without it. Oh, if I try to do math with for me, I could always kind of manage my way around English. Like I could always kind of write a little bit.
Yeah.
But for me, math was instantly horrible. It was just, I never even made it past like algebra 2.
Well,
I want to say.
Yeah, it's so literal. Like these equations are so literal. It's like, this is the equation, and then it's going to come out with this answer. And I'm like, there's a lot of parentheses and letters.
Yeah.
And
Rules.
There's all these fucking square roots and like.
But to some people, it's beautiful. It's the way, in a weird way, it's the way that I see like art, or the way some people see music. Some people see math and they get it. And this is furthering my point that was earlier. Every one of those minds in those classrooms is entirely different.
Yeah.
They learn differently too.
Exactly. Some of those people are meant to be in that classroom.
Yes.
They thrive learning all that stuff that you're putting in. Some of them, hey, there's got to be an earth scientist. I'm sorry. Elon Musk was in that classroom at one point, and he was exactly where he was supposed to be.
It's my daughter's like that. My oldest, she hates fucking sports. She's like, I don't give a fuck about a sport. Like, I don't want to play sports. I was like, all right, great. Well, then you better be the best. She's a 4.2 GPA in all honors classes.
It's awesome.
And she loves it.
That's
and I'm like, you're just wired different.
Yeah.
Like, I spent more time trying to figure out how to cheat.
Yeah.
Because I could give a fuck about any of this. Like,
I passed.
Yes.
Guess what?
I can read, I can write, and I can do basic fucking math. All right. That's
all you're gonna get.
I passed. I'm gonna graduate.
I got a fucking C. Like, it's like insane, you know? It's But then my youngest, I see, she's like got both. Like, she loves learning, but she also loves sports. And I'm like, oh, she got the best of both of us now. Because my wife's a fucking brainiac.
I was gonna ask, what's your wife in this?
She's a biology major.
Oh wow. Okay. Good for her.
And then she was a bodybuilder.
Oh, you guys are great, man. Good for you.
Beautiful
that's a beautiful
the cabin.
Family,
that's the cabin at 10,000 feet.
Dude,
it's at 10.4.
Looks amazing. I love it.
All log.
Yeah, oh, that's great. So cool. Oh, dude, Colorado's so great.
Yeah, Colorado's beautiful.
I seriously.
Yeah, if you would have showed me this picture when I was 15, I'd have been like, "Who's that?"
Oh, man, and just again, your story, and I love your story arc, which is nowhere near complete, but already what you came from and where you are. You've mentioned your faith a couple times, man. I mean, is that in any way contributing to that? I mean, your faith absolutely. From what God has given you.
Oh, that's what really brought my faith back to me was so I'll tell you a story. So I went to church. I remember I went to church one time with my stepdad, and I was probably like 13, 12 or 13. He divorced my mom, and she was like out in the streets, and he like let me stay with them. And then he got like remarried out of nowhere. Because I was just like living couch to couch, and then he comes back and like asks me to come stay with him, and he's like a man of God now. And sorry, I was such a piece of shit. Okay, great, I'll come stay with you. Well, then he takes me to church, and he was like, well, what'd you think? You know, and I was like, I kind of felt like the classroom. He fucking punched me in the face for saying that, you know, and that just like immediately was like turned me off as a teenage boy. Just immediately turned me off to that.
Oh yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm never going back to church again.
Can't imagine why.
You know, like I'm never going back again, and so forever I was just like selfishly thinking like I was doing all this shit by myself and on my own. And then it wasn't until recently, I'm talking about like recent like months, like a few months ago, where I was sitting there one day and I was just like, there's no fucking way I just did all this shit by myself. Like there's no way that I started thinking, what really was, I started thinking about all the times that I probably should have died, or probably should have went to jail, or probably like something bad should have happened, and it just didn't happen somehow. Like you just wake up the next morning and everything's fine. Like,
isn't that incredible?
Isn't it? It's just like he intervened because he knew that there was a bigger purpose for me. And then the guy that runs camera for me when I'm hunting, he's his dad's a pastor, and he's a man of God, and he's a very devout Christian, but he's like he's like very cool dude, like just a fucking solid human, you know. And he told me that like after the first time, because I'm such an intense guy, that after the first time that we hunted together, he was like, I'm never hunting with that motherfucker again. He's out of his mind. And he's like, I'm never hunting with him again. He's crazy. He's out of his mind. Like, not because I just like kill and shoot everything. It's because I'm like, I push it as hard as I fucking can. Like, cause to me, it's like all or nothing. And he was like, I'm never hunting with that crazy bastard again. You know, he's fucking nuts. Like, he just like, and I'm like, fucking, I'll like throw shit and like, fucking, you know, I'm just like,
it's that same mentality, that same
it's just
brain
like,
that's giving you,
it's an intensity. Like I'm taking this shit serious. Like I'm in the moment and I'm being serious and I'm emotional about it. And like, so I'm like, let's fucking go. I'm not being a dick to him or anything, but he's like, dude, you were fucking had me on edge. And he told me, he's like, I was never coming back, dude. And he's like, and I swear that night, like God spoke to me. He's like, God spoke to me. He was like, you can't give up on him yet. And when he told me that, I was like, man, that's fucking incredible that you stuck it out. Like his faith is so strong that he would put up with that shit. And just because he believed that God had a bigger purpose. And then now I'm just like, there's this thing called the Hallow app. Man. Mark Wahlberg is part owner of it. It's, dude, I started listening to that and it's just like these stories in the Bible, you don't have to take everything literal, man. It's like, you're supposed to learn a lesson from that. Like learn a lesson from, Abraham, lying about his wife being a sister twice, right? Like learn that lesson. Like, why do we, because you have to break that cycle. Like if you're going to you can't just keep lying and doing the same shit over and over and expect a different result. You know, it's, the stories in the Bible, that's like a random ass story in the Bible, but it's like,
there's so many
good ones, you know, it's
Old and New Testament.
Abraham's blind faith, it was so strong that he just was like, when God said, bring me a lamb to sacrifice, but don't bring a lamb, bring your son. He said, okay. And then when they left without a lamb and his son asked him, where's the lamb? He said, God will provide. And he took a knife and his son, told everybody, we will both be back. Laid his son on that, what do you call it?
Altar.
On the altar, and was going to gonna stab his own son, but he knew in his heart that he wouldn't have to. God stopped him and tells him to turn around. He turns around, there's a fucking ram tied up in a bush. God will provide. And it was just like, to me, it's those stories that were, whenever you feel like, hey, everything's against me, if you just keep fucking following the plan, right? Keep doing what your heart tells you is right, God will provide. And that's like an extreme, right? So I think that the Bible puts extremes in there so that we can see that, like, you know, there is a purpose, right? There's a purpose for everything happening. And it's hard to think that, because like, why did this, you know, especially when I have friends or people that have kids that are sick, because like having healthy children is like, I can't imagine like losing my daughter to an illness or something happening to my kids. Like I can't even imagine living after that. Like it just that's that feeling. Then you see people with like 6 children and it's like they did nothing to deserve that. But everybody has a purpose. You know what I mean? It's like everything happens for a reason, and God's plan is we'll never know, you know, what his true plan is for us until we get to the kingdom of heaven. So I did a lot of research on near-death experiences. I 2013 bruised my spinal cord. I was paralyzed, came back 2 weeks later, played. 12 weeks later, I wasn't getting fresh blood in my brain. I had a seizure. I was in a coma. And leading into that coma, I was in such I was so vulnerable that I was having all these hallucinations. And this is before I started doing psilocybin. This is why I started doing psilocybin, was because of this. Because I needed to reconnect my neurons in my body. I needed to connect my brain back to my body. Yoga and psilocybin helped that. But
yeah,
I was like waking up in the middle of the night with a giant dark figure standing over me, taunting me, like telling me you're never gonna get back to who you were. You're done. You're fucking done. Like saying shit like that. And I'm just laying there in bed, and I'd wake up the next morning and go play. Like I just acted like I was like, that didn't happen. I just disassociated with it all. But then when I started to like really come to terms with that, was the devil trying to, that's the devil. The devil will try to take you when you're at your most vulnerable. And that's when, like, I was lucky enough to be taken. You know, I was lucky that I didn't let him take my soul there, because he was trying. And anytime I ever felt like I had a lot of success, and things were going right, something would fucking happen, right? 2019, I'm having the best season of my career. I'm in my 8th season. I'm up for a contract renegotiation. Leading the team in sacks at week 12. Last 2 minutes of the game, I already got 2 sacks in the game. It's a 4th down inches play. Half the offense line jumps off sides, but the ref doesn't blow the whistle till too late. So I fucking slip and fall, and I'm going to get off the ground, and our nose guard runs into me, and my elbow completely subluxes to the ground. Complete dislocation to the ground. And that shuts my season down. I'm having the best season. I'm about to get a fucking bag, another bag, big bag. I'm talking $40-50 million bag.
Wow.
And I'm just at the end of a $40 million contract. So I'm the reason why I signed that smaller contract is I knew I was going to keep elevating my play.
Right. Yeah.
So I bet on myself, and and they offered me a contract that was pretty decent at the beginning of the season, and I turned it down because I was I'm gonna fucking ball out this year. Watch, and I was fucking balling, and I was gonna get a bag, and that happened. COVID happens, all this shit happens, and I had to go to Baltimore on a prove it deal for league minimum for a year to prove myself yet again, and I come in there and. It's funny because I think God puts people in your life for a reason. And my wife, the second I saw her, I was I knew that I had to do it didn't matter do whatever you have to do and be whoever you got to be, become whoever you got to be to make sure that that's your wife. Whatever, that's who you have to, it was clear as day to me. Because people around me are dude, you've only known this girl for 3 months. What the fuck are you doing? And I was I just know, dude. And they're you're out of your fucking mind, and you need to fucking help, But now, 8 years later,
yeah,
she literally has enhanced my life tenfold.
That's amazing.
That's
tenfold. The things that she's done for me is just incredible. And the shit that she puts up with is incredible.
Yeah.
I'm no box that child. I'm hard to deal with. I'm a fucking stubborn. I'm stubborn as hell. I don't like being told what to do. But she's always fucking right, and I know she's right, and I'll argue anyways. Right?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. But she still puts up with me because she has that same love for me. That she said she told me it was the same thing with her when she met me. She was something was just telling me that you just needed me. It was just needed,
That's incredible.
She's something, I know it sounds cheesy, but it's it's real, man. That really happened.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
think God put us in that moment, and it was crazy because she was my waitress in Vegas after we'd won the Super Bowl.
Wow.
I was not looking for a relationship.
Yeah. They say that's how it is.
And I walked in there and was she will be mine. Oh yes, she will.
You mentioned something earlier. The extreme stories and the extreme circumstances that are put forth in the Bible, and I put forth something here to you if I can. A lot of those stories and a lot of those examples, I think, are written for guys like you.
Oh, absolutely.
Extreme situations. The man is about to sacrifice his son. That's an extreme situation that a mind like yours will actually understand and resonate with. Something very, very traumatic could happen, and yet it didn't.
Yeah.
And think of the story behind that. God is showing him, look what it is like to actually have to sacrifice your son like I did.
Yeah.
I'm going to.
Yes.
If you think of the context, it's actually prophetic in the Old Testament when that story is happening to Abraham. It's thousands of years before Christ. But that was a picture of what he was going to do when he sent his son to come on the cross to die for the sins of the world.
Well, who knows what would have happened if he would have said no. If Abraham would have said, no, I won't say. Because Abraham waited 100 years for his son.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. In the twilight of his age. Yeah.
That's his only son.
Mm-hmm.
In the old days, having a son was the only way to pass on your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Otherwise, your line dies.
And he was willing to sacrifice that. So therefore, God was oh, if he's willing to sacrifice, if my creation is willing to sacrifice his only son, I have to be willing to do the same.
In a way, it's foreshadowing of sacrificing yourself.
Exactly.
In a way as well.
Exactly. And it's I think it shows nothing comes if you don't have to sacrifice anything to get what you have. Then is it worth having? because listen, I went to a rehab facility one time to talk to these kids, because a good friend of mine, she was in there, and she comes from a really wealthy family. Mm-hmm. I'm talking Rockefellers, Hard Rock Casino, like those type of people. Yeah. Billionaires.
The lizard people.
And they are fucking miserable. They are miserable. They fucking hate everything. They have zero purpose. Like they drive around a fucking Bentley. They drive around like Ferraris and Lambos, and they have all these, not everything you could ever think you want. They have, but they don't have purpose, and they've never had to sacrifice and struggle to get where they're at, and that's what it is. It's like, look at the wealthiest families to ever exist in America, right? The Vanderbilts, the Rockefeller, like
Chase,
Morgans.
The Morgans. Every one of them, and on the third generation, they fucking fell, because the third generation didn't have to struggle for anything. The second generation was usually their kids and their children. They were able to pass that on to their kids, and then their kids weren't able to pass that on to their kids, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Now you have these fucking spoiled trust fund kids that like are miserable. They're all miserable, all of them, because they don't have any purpose. Yeah. They have zero purpose. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have any reason to wake up the next day, so they just get fucked up all the time. They do a lot of drugs. They're doing heroin. It's like they're trying to kill themselves, but they're too pussy to actually do it.
Do you find that this instills in you a sense of responsibility when it comes to your kids? You're a person with means. I mean, you've earned it. You're first generation. Clearly, you're a self-made individual. Because it seems as though, and I'm sort of like a half a generation. My father did very well. His father did not. So I am late in my life. My father did well. So I'm half a generation of wealth. You as a father, you don't want to leave your kids out to dry and never support them in anything, because that obviously instills anger and animosity and everything else that can come with that. But you also don't want to take the other direction, which is that I'm gonna rob you of the struggle. I'm going to give you everything you need. You come up with an idea, I'll fund it immediately. That takes away the struggle. And you have to find the balance between those two things. Does that seem to be something that you're...
Yeah, and it just comes down to it starts at a young age and doing things for them. So like, you see too many parents, they're like, as soon as their kid wants something, they fucking jump up and go do it for them. No, you can wipe your own ass, so you can go pour yourself a fucking glass of milk too. All right, like, and it's sometimes like in the morning, I love getting up, getting my daughter's breakfast ready for her, like making her a nice healthy bread, making her some eggs and these little mini pancakes. I'll give her like a good breakfast. But like, hey, you're gonna fucking go and get your clothes on. Like, I'm gonna make her. You just have to stay on their ass. Like, parenting is here's the other thing. A lot of parents with wealth let nannies raise their kids. So they're being raised by nannies and iPads, and that's the truth. It's a fact. I see it every day, and those kids are the worst fucking kids, and they're awful. Like, they are awful kids. They have zero social skills. They're bratty. They're manipulative. They're entitled. They're like just terrible fucking kids, and it's not their fault. It's because they don't have any guidance. So that's like something. I'm retired, so I get to spend that time with my daughter. I get to raise my kids. Like, I get to actually raise my fucking kids, and I get to know what they're learning about every day. Too many people don't sit down at dinner and have a conversation. Like, they sit down at dinner. Two of their kids. They got iPads out. They got a fucking TV going. It's like, you and your fucking wife don't even like each other. So you just fucking hurry up and hammer your food down and go fucking,
the campaign, that scene in the campaign.
You're like, I can't fucking stand it. You just get out of there and like, no, it's like, even like, listen, if everybody gets along every fucking day, then somebody's miserable.
It's true.
There's no way.
Well said.
There's no way that one person isn't getting on the other person's nerves. Like, there's no way that me fucking having a high protein diet, farting all the time is like pleasant for her. Like, they don't care how big your bed is. Like, you fucking hear it and smell that shit all the time. It's like, there's no way she's like, oh, I'm so turned on by that nasty ass fart. Like,
just a Dutch oven each night.
Yeah, or like a big.
But you can't. But you figure out a way to get through and get around it.
Exactly.
You figure out a way to.
Because it's worth it. You know what I mean? Like, you make a commitment to each other, and it's worth it. And it's like, I understand that there's some things that are unforgivable, but like, at the end of the day, man, like you have to like the household starts with the father. So no matter how miserable your wife is acting, you are the fucking man. All right. So you don't rise up. You don't lower yourself to that level of emotionality. Like, don't be so emotional. Like, you're a man. All right. Women are allowed to be emotional, but you're a man. Fucking suck it up. All right. And then figure out ways to like deal with that in a healthy way. But don't take it out on your kids, and don't be cold to your family. Like, you have to, like, if me and my wife get in an argument, we do that shit in private. All right. Hey, let's argue in private. All right, we can have our argument, but I'm not going to raise my fucking voice and my wife in front of my kids. I'm not going to put my hands on my wife. I'm not going to do, like, that's the problem. We get all these, we don't have real men anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no real men because everybody's been feminized. Mm. Like, the masculinity has been attacked. Mm. So, like, yes, it's all these feminine ass men. I don't care how many fake muscles they have. They're still acting like fucking chicks. Like, you're acting like a woman, dude. Like, you're being manipulative. And I think it all starts because the fucking father was pushed out of the household. It's always these mama's boys that are the biggest fuck boys on earth. Mm-hmm. It's always the mama boys. It's like they could never do any wrong because their mama would just cover it up for them. You know what I mean? They and they always felt bad because they didn't have the father in the household, so the mom just had to like coddle the little boy, and now he acts like a little bitch. Like, that's what it is. He acts like a little prick, and you see it time and time again. I saw it with guys I played in a league with, where they didn't have a father, but their mom, they got to do whatever the fuck they wanted. They could never do any wrong, but they might have been a good football player, but they were a shit human. Mm-hmm. You know, because
they're everything that the external world would define as masculine.
Exactly.
They're professional football players. They're the biggest and the strongest in the room, in most rooms. But they're still acting in a very immature way. They're not acting. You're right. The definition of a man has. Well, it's been attacked in more ways than one, but it's certainly, it does not have to do with the standards that we've imposed. You know, how much money do I have? How many muscles do I have? What do I look like? How strong am I? How loud can I get? That's not the way that I would define masculinity. And it seems like today, especially for the younger generations, I mean, money, wealth, fame, and muscle. That's all you see pushed, especially through social media. And that is,
I want to see... I want to know what your kids think of you. Mm. What do your kids think of you? Like, what kind of children did you raise? That's why I've spent time with Trump. I've got to golf with him. I know Don Jr. pretty well. Like, his fucking family adores him.
It's awesome.
Right? They adore him, which is like, there's a lot to be said about that. Because go look at Joe Biden and look at his fucking kids.
Yeah.
They're a fucking disaster.
Yes, they are.
I mean, if I'm going to party with somebody, it's probably going to be Hunter Biden.
Obama doesn't even have kids.
Yeah, we could talk about that too.
There's no way that Big Mike is.
That was a joke. Right? That was a joke. All right, we could segue. I'm sorry.
I mean, who carried the kids? I don't know.
Oh man,
it wasn't Big Mike. I'll tell you that.
It was a joke.
But yeah, it's just it is. It does. It starts in the house. It starts with what is the. That's how I judge a man, like by the type of children he's raised. Mm-hmm. You know, and like especially a person with children. How do your kids act in public? How do they, what are they like? Do they actually listen to you? Like when I fucking raise my fucking eyebrows, my daughter is like, like it's like, okay, yeah, dad's serious. Mm-hmm. Because there's a time to play and there's a time to be fucking serious. And she like at 5 years old, she gets that already. Mm-hmm. It's because I spend so much fucking time with her. And I'm lucky in that way because I got to retire early. A lot of guys, they come home from fucking work and they're fucking tired and they're miserable. Mm-hmm. They're working some fucking job they don't like to do. And they got an ungrateful ass wife at home who just bitches at him all the time because he's fucking tired. Yeah. So he comes home, sees his kids for a couple hours, not really present. He's on his phone, fucking dicking around. He's playing video games or some other bullshit, doing something to escape his reality. And then the next thing you know, his kids are in high school. And he's like, where the fuck did the time go? Yeah. And it's like, don't waste the time you have now with your kids. Like, no matter what kind of tired you are, trust me, that price of regret is way higher than you could ever imagine, man. Like, and I realized that my first 2 years of my youngest daughter's life, I was in Baltimore and I just wasn't getting to spend enough time with her. And I could see that it was like affecting her. like she was getting like separation anxiety every time I was like not around her.
Oh wow.
And I was like, fuck, this really like. So I mean, and I know what it did to me as a kid, not having a father.
Yeah.
And what it did to me as an adult. And that's the other thing that brought my faith back in, because I never knew unconditional love growing up. Like my mom didn't show that to me. I didn't feel that from her. But I felt it whenever, and there's the other thing, as a mother's love is like explained to me in a way as like, no matter what you do, your mother will forgive you if you ask for it.
Mm-hmm. She's still going to love you.
She's still going to love you. She's still going to forgive you. It doesn't. I mean, even Jeffrey Dahmer's mom fucking loves him.
Never think you're guilty.
Yeah, then you're never guilty. It's like, yeah, as long as you're honest with her, like she'll just always love you. But I never knew that, and then I felt like an unconditional love from a daughter, and I was like, oh fuck, like that is strong. But I still felt there was a hole, still a hole, and I was like, what is this hole that I feel? And it wasn't until I allowed myself to have a relationship with God that hole was filled, because He loves me no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that incredible?
Like,
bro?
no matter what, He's gonna love me, and I can always ask Him for forgiveness. There's some things that are unforgivable, I think, but like on the most, if I fucking raise my voice and say the fuck word in front of somebody, it's like, yeah, He's gonna forgive me for that.
Mm-hmm.
If I go and fucking cold-blooded murder somebody, He might not forgive me for that. It's like, it's the extremes, but it's for the most part, the things that you do day to day that are considered a sin, He'll forgive you for that. Because
one of the biggest tenets about Christianity, bro, and we have a different background. We have a different background, but very similar in the way that I found salvation for the first time 2.5 months ago, and I've been raised since the time I was born in the Christian faith.
Yeah.
So my background, my struggle with my faith, my relationship with Christ was different than yours, but we both ended up in the exact same place, in the exact same need of salvation. For me, I grew up hearing it on repeat in my brain to where it was numb and it didn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. I'd heard all the stories. I'd heard everything that anybody could ever know. So my understanding of Christianity was very, very vast, but it wasn't deep. I didn't have any relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that meant. And the truth that anything can be forgiven through Christ and through salvation it's the greatest, most all-encompassing truth that one can experience in their life.
Yeah.
And that's to me, this side of heaven, that is the true definition of unconditional love.
Yeah.
The only definition of unconditional love.
It is.
And all these things we have, you've mentioned the importance of a father. That comes from God.
Yep.
He's our heavenly Father. Our fathers on this earth are meant to be mirrors, very, very poor and flawed and human mirrors, but they are mirror representations of what His relationship is with us.
Yeah.
Same with our mother. That are the way we're parented. And He is a father to the fatherless. That's what it says. It says that, and I believe in the Book of Psalms. It's a very, very powerful and real thing once you experience it. And the incredible thing is that it's a gift for everybody.
It's for everyone. That's why it doesn't discriminate.
Not at all. Read the New Testament. Read about Peter. Read about the type of guy he was.
Oh.
He was just like you.
Yeah.
He was a sailor talking, real brash, real violent. He was an out of control, narcissistic guy.
Yeah.
He was. But he, go and feed my flock. Do you love me, Peter? Go and disciple for me. He's who He sent. The story of salvation, the story of the crucifixion, the murderer beside Him who prays for forgiveness and is saved that day. And Christ tells him, today you'll be in paradise with me. You didn't have to do a thing. That guy died an hour later. He didn't do anything to earn his salvation.
No.
It's a powerful and incredible message, man. And I didn't go into this thing thinking that this would be something we'd have in common, but truly, I mean,
it is
2 months ago.
It's like, it was September for me. Yeah.
When was the men's retreat? When was that, in September?
Yeah.
Dude, I actually think it's
like 2
September.
months, yeah.
Like
2
let's
months
go.
ago.
That's
It's
incredible.
That's crazy.
That's weird.
It's wild, man. And the other thing was like Trump not almost getting his fucking head blown off. Like that fucked with me, because I was like, dude, he turned his head at the perfect time.
Barely.
Like,
oh yeah.
there's no way that was like coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no way.
And his victory. I believe that his victory was a result of prayer.
Absolutely.
I believe in the power of prayer
Oh, me
now
too.
more than ever. And I believe that we've been a nation under judgment for a very long time. And you see this a lot in the Bible. I mean, the nation of Israel goes through this. Read the book of Habakkuk, when the nation of Israel is being starved by the Babylonians, I believe it was, where they're literally being starved to death. There are times when God is punishing the nations, and times when, and it says in the Bible that if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and repent, I will come. And that is what I think happened during this last election.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you saw everybody, certainly from the Christian faith, praying and realizing the gravity of this situation that we are currently in. And yes, I believe God's hand is on Donald Trump. I believe that he is absolutely chosen to be president, and that's, I mean, all glory to him.
I
Thank
believe
you.
it too.
So
That's what I
thankful for
believe.
that. It's
So thankful. Because really, that's why we haven't had more kids. Because, we had our
100%.
daughter in 2019, and it was like a fucking nightmare. It was like an absolute nightmare. Just every day, it was like it just got worse
Oh, I bet.
and worse and worse.
2020 was right.
Yes,
She was
and then
one.
COVID happened,
Yeah.
and then I was persecuted and segregated, and because my support for Donald Trump started in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I was immediately labeled a racist, like immediately, and it
can
was
imagine.
because I wouldn't kneel. I wouldn't fucking kneel.
That's
during
right.
the
I
national
forgot
anthem.
about that shit.
I wouldn't kneel. So they're like, "Why aren't you kneeling?" And I was like, "Because I love my country, and if you don't love it here, then why do you live here?" That's what I said. I was like, "You're free to go. It's not North Korea. Like, you can just go wherever you want if you wanted. You know, you
Or Neil, just don't get on me for not.
Yeah.
Like
Do whatever you
Do
want,
whatever
but-
you want, but what are you getting on me for? Like,
You
no, I
asked
don't
me
want to
why
do it.
I'm not kneeling. I told you, and now they said Derek Wolfe tells his black teammates to go back to Africa.
What the
The
hell?
Washington Post did that.
Shut up.
Yes,
Oh my
They
god.
should get sued for that type of
they
shit.
pulled
dude.
it right away, like immediately. But it was like the damage was done because my fucking teammates saw it, and they're like, "Dude, what the fuck is this? You said that?" And I was like, "No, I didn't fucking. Come on, dude. You think I said that?" Like,
That's unbelievable.
and then now I got all my teammates looking at me, sideways.
Of course.
The fact that they could just get away with that bullshit.
Well, that's the thing. There's no repercussion for it. You know, there's no. Well, that's the other thing. Accountability is nothing without consequence.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability means nothing if there's no consequence, right? It's like if I'll use it in the most simple of examples. If my wife tells me to stop doing something and asks me not to do something, but I continue to do it, and all she does is bitch at me, and then I still get laid that night,
Why would you stop?
why would I stop?
Mm-hmm.
But if she does it and then is like, "Okay, motherfucker, I'm not talking to you for a week," now I'm like, "Oh fuck,
That's a consequence.
that's a consequence." Like I can't. I gotta. She's right. I gotta put the toilet seat down.
And
You're gonna think about it. It's just like when you're a little boy. Like if you got fucking smacked on the hand or smacked on the ass, like that teaches you. Okay, that hurt. I'm not gonna do that again. So next time when you think like, should I do that? It's like a risk versus reward thing, and that's how men respond, right? There's got to be some risk to the reward, and is the risk worth the reward? So
very little accountability for the media, at least thus
Zero
far.
accountability.
Zero accountability at that time, certainly, and that was even pre-COVID. I mean, look at what the media did during COVID.
dude, I wouldn't get vaccinated.
I was about to ask, what happened then? You've
That
probably
was-
been under the shit magnifying glass in the NFL for a very long
It
time.
was- can I get another one of these?
Yeah,
These are excellent.
they're good, right?
Yeah.
You know what? This is the next one. Try this one. So this is their new company that just sent it up. It's called what is it? Just Water. There's all these like water in a can companies now
Yeah,
that are just
yeah.
crushing
They're
it.
crushing it.
It's so simple, but it's
Well, it tastes better. That was the other thing. During COVID, we were drinking Gatorade from a can. Oh, so fuck. I was shotgunning them. So good. It tasted so much better out of a can for some reason.
it took me a second to because of the germ thing. They had each individual can to.
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Got it.
Oh, it was insane. So we
Because
would
of
go-
science.
Well, think about this. Yes,
science.
just the science.
Yeah.
And you know, my wife, biology major, who's
Yeah.
in the medical field, everything, and she's like, "This is fucking bullshit," you know, like, just like
Mask up in
so
between
pissed because it's like trying to stop it's like I was to tell people like, look, dude, if I fart, you're gonna smell that fart, all right? That means shit particles made it out of there. And do you think that these little micro fucking these what do they call them? Micro whatever. They're fucking like it's like trying to stop a mosquito with a chain link fence.
Oh, you're talking about the efficiency
masks.
of the masks, right? Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
We would come off the field and practice.
Yeah.
Right. So we're out there fucking bleeding on each other, spitting in each other's face, and like fucking. It's just.
Yeah.
It's just like not on purpose, but like you fucking.
Part of it.
Two dudes hit 350-pound dudes fucking hit head to head. Spit's coming out of your mouth and snot and fucking sweat and you're just bleeding on you. Like it's. But then you come off the field. If you take your helmet off, you have to put a mask on. But if you keep your helmet on, it's fine.
With your 3x3 that's
Yeah,
like blocks your.
So no, this is blocking.
There's so
this
much
deadly virus from fucking killing people.
Insanity.
You're a murderer. And then they sat up in front of us. They
Gonna
sat up
kill
in
your
front of us
family.
and told us that if you don't get a vaccine, then you just don't care about the team.
What about grandma?
Yeah, you're gonna kill your grandma
You're
with
gonna
your
kill your
face.
grandma.
You're gonna kill your grandma?
All this shit that
yeah.
they did, they fined the fuck out of me. I mean,
I was about to ask. Speaking of consequence, what did they do when you pretty much just said, "Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that"?
it all started. It started. I was in Baltimore. It was like 90 degrees. Fucking 3-hour grinder practice, in the heat, in the middle, like dog days at camp. And they told us like, hey, they're going to be enforcing these mask rules. And like, they're like, as if you're not eating or drinking something, you better have a fucking mask on. And we're like, okay, cool. I get off the field. I could peeling my shit off like on the field because they would have us peel our jerseys off and hand our jerseys, and they'd take our shoulder pad and spray them down to make sure they didn't stink in our helmets. And then you walk into it's like 10 steps into the locker room. So I grab a protein shake, drink it. Next day I come in, I got a $15,000 fine on my locker. And I'm like, the fuck is this? Refusal to wear a mask. And I'm like, what the fuck? So and there was like 10 or 12 of us that still hadn't been vaccinated. So it was like they like targeted us all. So they had a meeting. They brought the league in to talk to us, and they were like, look, these guys, it's their job to watch the film of the building all day, because there's fucking cameras everywhere in an NFL building. Everywhere you go, except for like the toilets and the actual locker room. There's cameras everywhere.
Right.
Like fucking everywhere. And they're watching it, so they're like, we're watching if you're closer than 6 feet from someone in the lunchroom, like fine. If you don't put a mask on, fine. If you don't do this, fine. You can't be in the meeting room with the team, fine. You can't be, if you're unvaccinated, this is vaccine rules. You can't be in the weight room with everybody else at all, fine. Like, you can't do anything. It's not a team fine, it's a player fine. So they just like punish you and segregate you and make you feel like you're not part of the team. Meanwhile, my family is all the way in Denver. So I'm like alone, right? And that I don't do well like that.
No.
I don't function well like that. So I was just not doing well. It was not like my mental health was not doing well because I was like, I don't do well with like this authoritarian bullshit. And we had a meeting with with them, and they're like, we're watching everything you do. We're just trying to keep you safe. And I was like, I fucking slammed on the table. The team president was in there, head coach, GM, and then like a bunch of, Lamar everybody's in there.
Yeah.
Right? So we're all in there. Like there's like, it's like the team captains. We're all in there. And I was like, how the fuck do you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and think, you know what? I'm a good guy. I was like, you're going to take fucking money off of my plate? Or you're going to take money out of my bank account? So, because I didn't wear a mask for 10 steps, where I'm just going to take it off anyways? I was like, you're going to really fine me for that. He's like, we're just trying to keep you safe. So I just like was going in on him about how it doesn't do shit. I was like, the science is bullshit. You guys are all fucking liars. And the GM is just like dying. Like he knows that I'm right. They all know I'm right, but they force the coaches to get it. So the coaches are fucked. So they got forced into getting it, or they lose their job. Mm-hmm. And all of the coaches, because they're under a whole different like rule system than the players are. So then I told him, I said, he was like, look, just wear your mask and everything will be fine. I was like, all right, I'll wear my Star of David, you fucking. That's what I told him. And he didn't. He got all butthurt about that, so they like targeted me. And I got fined $275,000.
Holy shit!
Fucking bullshit.
Oh my god! This seems
And that's
like
pre-tax.
So I was about to say that's before they took the
like
52% out.
50. That's like over $500,000 that they took.
2.5 Bitcoins.
That's yeah. That's unbelievable. It is such a very Orwellian process that it seems like they just enacted. And it feels like a fever dream because it's long enough ago now where you think back to that time and you're like, what were we all doing? People who we know now, like in the industry, who had their businesses shut down, they're gone forever. And it's just like you look back, enough time has passed now, and enough clarity has come into the frame where we realize, like, nah, you people, like, I can look back at the history of this and I can see exactly where you were and where I was, and the stance I took versus what you did not. And there was a right and a wrong way to do this, and you did it wrong.
And they just want to turn the page on that, like nothing ever happened.
Oh yeah.
Like, no, let's not. We're not going to talk about.
Anthony Fauci should be in fucking prison.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, we give it.
They made it up. Yeah. They made up all of the rules. Mm-hmm. All the rules were just fucking made. They're like, well,
they changed it.
Think about these idiots.
Half a dozen times, right in front of us on the news.
What about the origins?
Oh, the Wuhan fucking.
Oh yeah.
What about
the China virus?
Oh my
because
God.
it comes from China.
Did you ever see the South Park on that? The pandemic special? He's like, nobody knew anything about COVID when I fucked the bat. I thought I just came back from China with a flu. Oh, I love that show so much.
It's still so good.
And on that note, let's go hit in the sauna.
Let's do it.
Dude, thanks for coming on. That was a lot of fun.
Appreciate it.
That was
Yeah.
seriously. What is up, you guys? Hope you enjoyed that episode of Becoming the 1% podcast. Eric Wolfe is in the house. If you guys like that and you want to see more content similar to that, go ahead and click right here.